So the next thing I want to show you is parametric EQ and how it works on the StudioLive with regards to a channel. Probably one of the biggest things that I think parametric EQ can be helpful for is the pastor's lavalier mic or head-worn mic. You ever had this experience where, the pastor is speaking through a lavalier and then he walks up to a handheld mic and picks it up and it just sounds way better, and when he puts it back down, he goes back to sounding like this kind of a thing? Well, mid-range is one of the toughest things with regards to lapel mics, and it's also everybody's voice is different. There's certain frequencies in people's voice that can come across harsh. I find that primarily happens in the mid-range frequencies. So what we can do is we can actually notch out the offending frequencies that are kind of harsh, and then we can boost some of the other frequencies that are more pleasing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull up a little sermon, typical sermon vocal right now, and we're going to play that back. It's coming up right here, and you can just hear kind of what it sounds like. I'm going to take all the EQ and everything off of it. So here's kind of the vocal by itself.
This morning about a new beginning in witnessing. A new beginning in being witnesses for Christ. This morning we'll look at the last words, in fact, the last recorded words of our Savior before He ascended.
Okay, so what you're hearing here is obviously there's certain frequencies that are more harsh in tone. So what we want to do is identify those. So on the fat channel, all I have to do is on channel 23 where that vocal is, I select that channel, I engage the EQ, and I'm going to engage the high-mid band of the EQ. And then what we're going to do is, using the Q control, we're going to tighten up the bandwidth. What that means is I'm really trying to just identify a tight group of frequencies. I don't want to affect a whole bunch of frequencies, okay? I want to try to find where's that offensive mid-range frequency and notch that out. So before you start notching, you have to identify it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to actually boost. So we're going to go back to the high-mid band. We're going to crank up the gain, and now we're going to play the vocal back, and we're just going to sweep around and listen to it, okay? So listen to this.
Into heaven to sit at the right hand of the Father. You know these words very well.
So now let's find...
Acts 1:8 says, but you shall receive power when the Holy Ghost has come upon you, and you shall be witnesses to me
find a place
Jerusalem.
Where he's sounding kind of nasal and harsh. Now, after we've identified that frequency, we're going to cut it. Okay? So now listen to it.
And all Judea, Samaria, and to the end of the earth. How many of you would agree
so here
this morning,
we can hear it before and after. Here's before.
Jesus. My friend, the only way God's going to use you, and I believe use me.
Now, the second thing that we can do is add some warmth to his voice. So we're going to do this with the low-mid band. So we're going to go ahead and engage the low-mid band, and I like to use a little bit of a wider curve. Okay, but before we start boosting lows, let's go back over here to the high-pass filter. Now remember what I said. The high-pass filter is basically eliminating low rumble. And with a typical male vocal, I guess unless you're Barry White or something, you want to get rid of a lot of that low-end information so it doesn't influence the sound. So typically I will roll this off around, 130, 180 hertz, depending on the voice. So now we're starting with a signal that basically starts at around 130 hertz, 180 hertz. And now let's go ahead and add a little warmth to his voice, okay? Here we go.
The Greek word for good news, euangelon, and it's where we get our English word, evangelism.
Okay.
You can almost hear it in the word, euangelon.
So here's without.
You hear the word angel,
here's before,
which means messenger.
Kind of nasal.
Means good. So
and here's
we have
with.
some good news. We are messengers of...
Okay. The next thing we can do, and this is optional, but I like to add a little bit of high frequency, just a little bit, to kind of, help the air kind of sound in his voice. We'll go above sort of the mid-range frequencies, up around, 8 to 10K. Listen to this.
Of good news, and we are to share good news. I'm glad I don't have to stand this morning and share bad news.
So now, here's without EQ.
I don't have to stand here today and talk about all of the sickness and disease
and here's
the murders that are going on around our community.
So just in a few moves, we're able to really affect the sound of that lavalier mic. And guess what we can do now? We can save it, go over to the fat channel, hit save, go to an empty slot right here, and we call this Pastor's lavalier mic, and boom, now we have a preset that we can recall later on, okay? So that's basically the workflow of that. Now let me show you another little really cool thing that you can do with regards to getting the best sound, and that is adding effects on an effects bus, reverbs and delays. The StudioLive mixers have two 32-bit effects processors with reverbs, delays, different type of ambient room sounds. And what we can do is set them up and assign a bunch of channels to them, just like we would assigning channels to an aux send. But these are built-in effects aux sends, you can think of them as, okay? So if you look here on the board, you've got effects slot A and effects slot B. And what we're going to do is set these up. Let's say we want a drum reverb on A and a vocal reverb on B, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the effects button right here. And then the first menu that comes up shows you here's slot A and here's slot B and here's what's currently in them. If I page down one page, now we're looking at just effects A, and we can go ahead and choose an effect to assign to effects slot A. So let's go ahead. That's going to be my drum verb. Let's go ahead and I like plate reverb on snare and toms, so we'll go ahead and assign the plate reverb and hit the recall button. Now, after you hit recall, now we've assigned plate reverb on A. Now let's page down one more and find something to put on the vocals, maybe a warm hall reverb, and once you find what you want, you hit recall, it puts it in that slot. And of course, there's more parameters here. You can go in and tweak in, the length of the decay time and stuff like that. But now all we've done is really just kind of set them up, but we haven't assigned anything to them. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and I'll pull up some drums, and we'll go ahead and assign some reverb on our snare. So I'm just going to hit play from capture, and okay, so there's some drums. So they're dry right now. So what you're going to do is go to the mix control, which is this button right below effects A. And as soon as I hit the mix control, what that does is it makes my encoders, all 24 encoders, become effects sends to effects A. So if I want to assign snare and toms to effects A, all I have to do is go to the encoder that's above the snare drum channel, which is 2, turn it up. There's a little reverb. And then my toms are on 4 and 5, so I go to the number 4 and 5 encoder, turn those up a little bit. There we go. So we have some verb on the drums. Now the next thing let's do is add some reverb to our vocals. So my vocals kind of start at channel 14. What I'm going to do is go to the mix control below B, effects B, and now all of these encoders become send levels to my hall reverb. So I'll go to channel 14, which is my lead vocal, and we will go ahead and hit play and capture so you can hear it.
We will praise, we're gonna celebrate, sing for joy, lift our hands to the Lord today.
So let's go ahead and add some reverb.
We will praise, we will praise. We will praise, yes.
We will remember you are the Lord. We will.
So you can hear that reverb. Now check this out. look right here at effects in A and B. Check it out. There's a select button right by these. You know what that means? That means I can assign the whole fat channel to my effects returns. You know, I'm an old guy, so back in kind of my older, first starting out in digital, actually analog recording, that was kind of a trick we used to do, is add a little compression to your reverb return. And it helps that reverb stay in the mix without becoming overbearing. And then you can kind of, you know, place that reverb in the mix as well. So now, that's the cool thing about this board. You've got those select buttons even, or rather the fat channel can be assigned even to the effects returns. So it's really cool. It enables you to get channels assigned to effects and then actually tailor those effects even further. Great. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is some ways that the StudioLive solution was designed to help you, the sound engineer. Probably the biggest thing on a digital console is the ability to create scenes for different worship services or different applications. And this is a very cool thing because, you know, I have different services. Like we said before, you might have a completely different style service on, you know, Sunday mornings as you do on Wednesday nights or different times. And to at least have a starting point is really cool. So in order to, let's say, create and recall a scene, I'm going to show you how to do it from the board, and I'm going to also show you how to do it from VSL. So let's do it on the board first. So let's just say I've got the board set up exactly like I want, and I want to save this to a scene. All I have to do is go to the scene button right here, and then I can go ahead and hit store. And then it's basically asking me, where do you want to store it to? So I find an empty slot, and then I can name it. So let's just call this, you know, 11 a.m. Okay, so this is going to be our 11 a.m. service. To hit a space, it says right here, use tap for space. So we'll make a space, and you know, you get it set up like you want. And basically, all you have to do is hit store, and boom, now we've stored that. Now, to recall a scene from the board is really just as easy. You just go into the scene memory, we find the scene that we want to recall, and then the StudioLive allows you to choose what parameters you'd like to recall. So you've got recalling your mutes, recalling your effects, recalling your assignments, EQ and dynamics, aux mix, faders, pots, GEQ. There's a no and a yes by each of these. So you can, if I just wanted to recall just my EQs and auxes and then do everything else manually, you can do that. So it allows you to choose. Once you figure out what you want to recall, and let's say I want to recall my fader position. Now I'm going to show you this because obviously the StudioLive does not have moving faders, and we made a decision to not put moving faders on this board for a couple of reasons. I'll explain that in a second. But let's just recall the scene, and all of a sudden I hit recall, and now the board is in this fader locate mode. And this will allow you to recall the fader position of the board without having to use a moving fader. Now, just a quick thing on why we chose not to put moving faders on the board. Number one is we wanted as many customers to be able to use the StudioLive, and putting a good quality moving fader on a 24-channel board would have probably increased the price by about $1,500. Does absolutely nothing for the sound quality of the board. We instead try to invest more into the way that this thing functions and sounds. So we used better mic preamps, really great A to D converters, things that really make a difference. Now, when I do want to recall a complete fader position, as soon as I hit recall, the board has recalled itself, and now we're in fader locate mode, which is only a mode that allows me to get the fader position back. Now the LEDs will show me where my actual fader position for that scene is. So watch this. If I increase the fader past the preset level, you'll see it'll go above the middle LED. If I go too far down, it'll go below. Kind of like a guitar tuner. You want to get it right in the middle. You know, not sharp or flat, just right in the middle. And so it takes, 30 seconds to recall a fader position scene, and I do this all the way across. As soon as I hit select, my board is ready, the faders are active, and you're ready to mix, basically. Everything else on the board, as far as all of your effects settings, your monitor settings, EQ settings for each channel, those are instantly recalled.